Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. My name is Sarah.
And I'm Bree. And today with us we have author Michelle Major. Thank you for being with us today.
Hi, ladies. Thank you so much for having me.
I know I'm thrilled. I know
Yeah.
Bree's thrilled, but I know I'm also thrilled
We're
for sure.
excited.
Well, that
So
makes
why
three
don't
of us.
Oh, yay! I'm so glad. So why don't you share with us where we can find you online and a little bit more about yourself?
You bet. I would love to. So you can find me online. My website is michellemajor.com, and all of the details, all the social media links are there. I also do a monthly newsletter with a special giveaway just for newsletter subscribers. And then I'm on both Facebook and Instagram at Michelle Major Books. And I'm also on Twitter, but I will say Instagram and Facebook are sort of my happy places for content. So that's where I'm most active.
Awesome. So your newest book, Wildflower Season, is already out by the time this goes live. I personally am so excited for it. Do you do anything special on your release dates?
Well, I will say that one of the things I try to do on my release dates is not to compulsively look at the Amazon rankings over and over again. So, um, I really love celebrating release dates. I am online a lot on release dates because it's the readers who I want to celebrate with, because they're the reason that I do this. And I have a great family. I love them, but I'm not sure they appreciate a new book coming out as much as the online community does.
For sure. Oh, that's awesome. We are always fascinated to learn how romance readers and writers found their way to the romance genre. According to your website, your origin story involves a plane ride and a Julia Quinn novel. I love it already. What was it about Julia Quinn that inspired you to begin writing romances of your own?
So it was a plane ride. So I was working in human resources, and I was flying all over the country, and I was really terrified to fly. And I picked up, I had never read romance. I feel like I was so late to the party, especially in the category world. And so I picked up this romance. It was a Julia Quinn. Um, I think was like the fourth Bridgerton book. I can't remember the name of it, but it was Benedict's story. And I was just totally captivated. And I realized at that point that, oh my gosh, the stories that I had been telling myself for years, kind of in my head, they could be romance novels. And I just felt like I kind of found my place in the world at that moment. So that was really my start as a reader, and I think as a writer,
Okay.
began.
Oh, awesome.
Now,
Benedict's story, I think, is my favorite
I just have
in
to
all
say,
of them.
one fun part of your story that I saw online was that, okay, so you did your degree in journalism, you graduated, you're from the Midwest, and you're like, I'm going west. So you go to Colorado, and I'm like, I can just imagine you, like, now online, something that's really cool is people that like live out of their cars and kind of just travel all over the states. And you were talking about on your website how you like would sleep under the stars and stuff like that. And I'm like, that is so cool. And it sounds like Michelle Major was like living that life before it was like a cool thing on YouTube to do.
Well, yeah, people
So
connect with that thing. I think back when I was doing it, it might have been called a little bit homelessness, but yeah, I was really determined. I just wanted to live in the mountains. So my first job in Colorado was on a dude ranch right out of college. And then when that ended and I didn't have anything else, I had a car and I had all my stuff in plastic bags. And so I had an uncle in New Mexico who kind of handed me a tent and said, good luck. And so
oh
uh,
my
that's what I
gosh.
did. I camped around the Four Corners area until I could find, a way to make a living to to pay rent. And I have a teenage daughter now, and I'm not sure I'd recommend it for her.
Yeah.
For me, it was really great.
Times change.
Oh my gosh. I know. I mean, yeah, like now I feel like that would be so dangerous,
Right?
but
And
I think that is the
it's
coolest thing I've ever heard.
Right?
Just that freedom. So, okay, was it hard to do anything with the journalism degree?
it was a little bit, but what I interestingly found that journalism was something that I really loved in theory. I loved, you know, I loved the writing. I loved learning about marketing and advertising campaigns, but it was a little dry doing it as a career. So then
Okay.
that's when I kind of moved into human resources. And initially when I was in high school and I told my parents I wanted to be an English major, my dad, who was very sweet and protective, was like, "Well, that's great, but you can't make a living doing that. So you're going to need to do something else." And I think that's how I got to journalism, but fiction and fiction reading and fiction writing were, that creative part of it were really what I love. So I'm so grateful I found my way back to that.
Good.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Still the One was your first book for special edition. What was your journey to getting published like, and how did you become connected with Harlequin?
Well, when like we talked about, I read the Julia Quinn book and I
Mhm.
thought, and then I went on this huge historical romance binge, and I thought, oh, I'm going to write a historical romance. But I had two little babies at the time, kids in diapers, and there were a couple of things. One, the research for historical romance is really, I mean, to do it well, I just hats off to those authors.
Mhm.
And I also then, as I started writing and learning more about craft, my voice, which my writing voice tends to be, I think, a little more contemporary
Mhm.
anyway. My sense of humor and kind of the snarkiness of it. And so that's when I discovered Harlequin and the category romance and just contemporary romance in general. So I was really doing a lot of writing in that area, as well as going to conferences and entering contests. But then, I was sending out pages to agents, and I found one who I really connected with, and we had initially submitted Still the One to the super romance line because that was
Okay.
what I read the most, and they just felt like it wasn't a fit, and but Special wanted it. And so um then I read every special edition I could get my hands on, and I thought, "Oh my gosh, I love this. I love the concentration on, heart and home." And so it just felt like a really great fit from there.
Awesome. Yeah, I
I
do
feel
love.
like that's advice that we hear every time is like once you find the line or the line finds you,
Yeah.
read everything that you can in that line.
Hmm.
Would you say like that's advice that you would give aspiring category authors, like figure out kind of the lanes that you want to be in and then read everything that's out there? Do you feel like that's still something that people should do?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I would say even before, you decide, like I said, I think I had focused on supers to start because that's what I was familiar with. But if I had, done more reading across the different lines, then, I think the special editions would have resonated with me in that way. But yes, I think that is great advice for any aspiring author, is to take a look at, you know, who's doing well and what you're interested in, and then
Hmm.
just to get a sense of where you fit. I think that's great.
Absolutely. We have quite a few listeners who are new to the world of category romance. How would you describe the special edition line to someone who has never read a book under that line before?
Gosh, that is a really good question. How to describe special edition? I think it is a line with a strong focus on heart and home and community, but the stories also deal with a lot of really deeply emotional real life issues that I think are relatable to a lot of readers, but they do it in a way where you do have that promise of a really happy ending that I think romance readers want. So to me,
Absolutely.
it encompasses a lot of things. It can be funny and sweet and sexy, and it's just a great melding of a lot of aspects that make contemporary and category romance so special.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I agree.
Your first book, was it 2014?
I think it came out in 2013. Yeah.
2013. Okay. What was entering into that series like in 2013? Like what were kind of, if you were to tell us all of the books that you read when you first got published, like how are they different from like what you're putting out now and what you're seeing now?
Is there a big difference?
I think I would have to go back and read some of those early books, but I would say the difference is, and I think this is why to me category romance is such a great, I mean, I think it's a great overall place to be writing because of the shorter stories. It's such a great subgenre in which to hone your craft because you really have to know what you're doing with writing a story in 55 to 60,000 words to get everything you want on the page. So I
Mhm.
would guess what is different between the books I'm writing now and the books I was writing then. One is the speed with which I can write one, very practically, but also I think my confidence in my own voice. I feel really comfortable with what I'm doing, which I also think then allows me to stretch and go a little further with the stories as well.
Fair enough.
I'm writing confidence in your own voice down because I
Yes,
love that.
absolutely, absolutely. Let's chat about the trilogy Maggie and Griffin that came out in 2018. So all three of those books focused on the same couple, and I don't think, and I've read a lot of category romance. I don't think I've ever really seen that, even in just contemporary. Did you know going in that you knew that their story needed more to tell, and that's why you broke it into the trilogy?
So interestingly, Harlequin came to me with the idea to do a trilogy focusing on one couple for all three books because they had done some focus groups with readers and that was feedback that they had received was that they wanted something, more and kind of longer. So, but being a category romance author, I loved the challenge of it, and I loved being able to take their story, Maggie and Griffin, and expand it and make it bigger. But I was also really conscious of the promise of the story that
Hmm.
you give and the fact that readers were going to have to go along with something they hadn't before in that, you don't get that closure with the main couple at the end. So we did do a a kind of sub romance, a secondary romance in each of the books because I wanted some happily ever after at the end of each of
Yeah,
them.
Yeah.
that's awesome. Oh, I thought that series was fantastic. I loved it. Um, what we love so much about the Magnolia Sisters series is the found family aspect. What inspired you to write that series?
Well, actually, it was a sort of real life inspiration. My mom's best friend, who I've known for most of my life, did a DNA, like a 23andMe or, whatever, one of those send away
Mhm.
DNA things, and discovered that the man she thought was her father wasn't her father. And she had this whole other family. And I think it's something that, you hear more about with how connected people are in the world. And so I just thought that was such an interesting aspect of, what happens if the way you grew up wasn't really
Yeah.
the whole
Yeah.
truth. So um that is how that came to be.
Yeah. I think
That
what I really like. Go
one of
ahead,
my
Bree.
favorite memoirs is called Inheritance by Danny Shapiro, and that's the entire book.
Yes.
Like taking a DNA test and learning like the guy that I grew up thinking was my dad isn't my dad, and he had unfortunately passed away. And then yeah, I love stories like that. I
Mhm.
think the
Mhm.
genealogy
Yes.
craze is just it's so fascinating.
I
Yeah.
think it is too. And I would say, they a lot of people I've read or I've heard that most authors kind of have a theme, an overarching theme in most of their books. And I really think mine is that finding your home. And probably part of it is because, I have strong roots in Ohio, but I was determined to find my place in the West. And so
Mhm.
that was another aspect of that I thought was, really intrigued me, is putting together these women who, all for whatever reason, don't quite feel like they fit in or they found their place in the world, and how can they do that? So
Yeah. Yeah. It's a really great series.
yeah.
So
um
the series is more women's fiction, right? Like we
y-
would so and we have seen a lot of romance authors writing more women's fiction. Were you ever intimidated by stepping into like this different
the single
this different
title.
The
genre?
single
Yeah.
title. I think I felt so interestingly, the Magnolia Sisters series started as it was going to be a spin-off of one of my special edition series, the Crimson Colorado series. So
Mhm.
I knew after 11 books in Crimson, which I dearly loved, it is a town that is really a sort of a mix of all of my favorite little mountain towns in Colorado. But I knew I wanted to branch out and try a different world. And so I came up with this series. And then even as I was writing the proposal and then when I sent it to my editor, I just thought, gosh, this is bigger than what I can do in special edition with this, because
Mhm.
I think the categories, which I love writing, have that really, really spotlight focus on the couple. And
Mhm.
these books just felt like more. So I don't think I probably should have been intimidated, but I don't think I was, because I was just so into getting this story on paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine you being intimidated by anything at this point, knowing
Right?
you literally lived in a tent camping out on your own as a young woman. Like,
Yeah.
I can't even imagine you being intimidated.
The blank page
Because
is
what is
really intimidating. Sitting down every day is intimidating.
because that's one of the things about that series that I really enjoyed. I mean, like, yes, there's a romance. There's a great romance in all three of those books. But the relationship between the sisters, I mean, that's the heart and soul of that series. And like you said, you're at a specific word count for special edition. I just feel like it would have been more focused on the romance, where I really liked the mix that you did for that. It's really well done.
Thank
Really
you.
enjoyed it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do. This year, you are releasing your Carolina Girls series, which has a novella and four books that are releasing in 2021. What can you share with us about the series, and what do you enjoy about writing both category and single title?
Okay, so the Carolina Girls is actually, it's kind of a Magnolia Sisters spinoff. So it is set in the world of Magnolia, North Carolina, and really that was because, again, another collaboration between my editor and myself, that I just loved that world. And as I was writing the final Meredith, who is the third sister, when I was writing her book, there was just, I felt like there was more to explore in that world. And one of the things I love about writing a series, either for single title or for special edition, is that readers get to revisit the characters they've known and loved in the series. So I felt like I wasn't done with the sisters. I've given them their happily ever after, and I wanted readers to see that, to know what happened to them. So the Carolina Girls spins off, in Wildflower season is actually set in the town, and the sister of the hero from book 3 comes and kind of falls in love with the dad's house, and wants to reinvent her life. And so I really hope that what readers will see is this sort of new aspect to the town and some new people coming in, but they'll get to revisit their favorites as well. And so then you had a second part of the question, which I was the single title and category. And
Yeah.
gosh, I love writing both. I love the expansive world, and typically my with how my publishing schedule is, I kind of go back and forth between writing a category, and then the single title. And so it's almost like it keeps it really fresh for me as a writer to kind of do that more expansive world, and then to really focus on the couple and the romance within a community. So I think I feel fortunate to be able to do both.
Yeah.
Can I just say that the cover to Wildflower season is
Gosh.
gorgeous?
It's so beautiful, isn't it? Yes, the art department just knocked it out of the park.
So do you have any, are you like giving them a brief description of like, this is the book? Like, how do you have any part in what the cover looks
I
like?
Yeah.
do.
Because
We do sort of cover concepts and inspiration, and some of it comes, as we're brainstorming titles. But I feel like as this series has gone on, and you know, Harlequin has really gotten to know what it's about, and I've become more comfortable with it. I just think they are doing such an amazing job. So, and I will mention, I think it's a really fun, we're doing a pre-order promotion with Wildflower season, where if anyone pre-orders it, you can go to my website and just enter in the information, and we're sending out packets of wildflower seeds, as well as a personalized letter from Emma, the main character. So it was just sort of a fun intro to this series.
please send us all that information and we'll put
Yes.
it on our
I
Instagram.
will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I love that.
So when you talk about that feeling of like, I know that there's more, like I'm not
Mhm.
done here. What's the process of then like, I mean, shout out to editors. Editors sound so cool.
Sure.
What's the process then? Are you in conversation with your editor and you're like, I don't feel like I'm done. And then it's like, well, give me an idea. And then you give the idea. And then are they like pitching it for you? Like, what's the process of like,
Mhm.
this door is closed, but I feel like there's something on the other side. Like we're not done. And then now we're getting a new spinoff. What's
Yeah,
that look like?
it's pretty collaborative, and I feel really lucky. I have worked with Gail Chasen, who is the senior editor for Special Edition, since very early. I think my third book is when I started with Gail, and she's also my editor for the HQN books. And you're right, she is just about the coolest person on earth, and has such great instincts for things. So it's really, as the Magnolia Sisters was going along, that's when I start thinking about, okay, but what's next too. And I always think of it as the slutty new idea. It's like you're writing, and you're in the trenches of the book, but then it's like, oh gosh, what's next? What's out there for me? So yeah, I think, and because readers had really responded to the Magnolia Sisters and this town of Magnolia, North Carolina, I just sort of, as you're saying, I was like, Gail, I don't think I'm done here. And this character popped into the Last Carolina Sister as, like I said, the sister of the hero, but she very clearly wanted to come to Magnolia, and so then it was like, what can we do with that? And then you just sort of work back and forth from there.
Speaking of editors and stuff like that, I know that you have written a number of books that were part of the Fortunes of Texas series, a long-running special edition series that has had so many spin-offs from the original Fortunes of Texas. Do they come to you, like, does your editor come to you and say, hey, we want you to be a part of this? Or how does that whole process work?
Yes, initially, and I think, so I'm actually editing right now. It's due next month, my 2022 January Fortunes of Texas book. And I think this is my 7th or 8th year on it. So yeah, there's a lovely woman who comes up with sort of the outline of what's going to be happening that year for the Fortunes. And you're right, there are Fortunes, and Mavericks all over the place.
Oh
They're
gosh, yeah.
prolific
Yes.
family. So, and there are so many multiple kids in this. I mean, everybody's having twins and triplets in this.
Oh yeah.
One of the things for me, I really like about the Fortunes is it's kind of fun to put my spin on their story. And
Yeah.
and then you also get to, because there are 6 different authors every year. So, we have a group along with the editors, and so there's a lot of brainstorming and chatting that goes on in there. So it's like this kind of palate cleanser where it's like this fun thing to do with my author friends. So
That is awesome. Oh yeah. Is there another category series that you may be interested in writing for? I know that you said Super Edition, but unfortunately they're gone.
I know.
But is there any other ones that are currently being published that you might want to try your hand at?
I have always, and I have several friends who write for romantic suspense, and I've always really done straight category, but I love the idea of suspense, and so I do have a couple like nuggets that I'm sort of turning around, just I think from forming a story and adding that suspense aspect into it would be just another great creative challenge.
Oh, for sure. We are huge fans of the Christmas season, and you have written a bunch of books that take place during the holidays. What is it about Christmas that makes it so fun to write stories about, like, for that time of year?
Yes, I am a huge fan of the Christmas series, the Christmas books as well, and I have written a lot of them. I think there's something really, kind of magical, and again, in that there's such just a hope in the air around Christmas. And I really love taking characters who don't believe in the magic of Christmas and kind of showing them that it exists and taking readers along on that story. Plus, I think, you know, there are a lot of really magical things about Christmas, but for a lot of people, there's a lot of tough emotions around it too. So again, I think the Christmas is just like a great escape to go to that world. And then there's so many sweet and cute activities. So you just
Yeah.
set up for a million adorable scenes there.
I think Christmas, we love Christmas romances. We
Mhm.
start reading them literally like September 1st.
Yeah.
And we read them through the holiday season. But I think that they just sound so tough to write. I mean, they're
Mhm.
easy to read, but like I can't imagine trying to write one because you read a lot where Christmas is like it's marketed to us as readers as like a Christmas story, but Christmas happens at the end. And
Yeah.
we as romance readers that love Christmas, we're like, we're in it for the romance, but we're also in it for the Christmas.
Yeah.
So I don't, I think with Christmas romances as an author, it's tough because I assume because you really have to sell the Christmas. We want to feel the cold weather. We want to smell the
Yeah.
hot chocolate. We want to taste the cookies. It's like it feels like all these extra added layers in that I would just be like, I'm not even going to bother. I'll leave this to the professionals. But every time you read a good one, you're like, this is how a Christmas
Yes.
romance should be
Yes.
done.
Yes,
Yeah.
I do agree with that. I will say I think for coming off of the Crimson series, which was set in Colorado, which is very easy to get into the Christmas spirit here because we have a lot of snow here. And then going to Magnolia, and I had spent a lot of time in North Carolina as a kid, but it was always in the summer. And so then I will say initially it was a bit of a challenge for me to think, oh my gosh, how do I communicate the Christmas spirit, but I don't have any snow or cold weather or people
Yeah.
bundled up in things. So I felt like there was some fun Christmas, Christmas. So Magnolia now has this festival, Christmas on the Coast. So
Mhm.
there's beachy Christmas, but I had a
Yeah.
lot of fun doing research for that online, and it's amazing how towns in the South get into Christmas just as much as those of us who have the four seasons do.
It's true. And I know that like Bree's in San Antonio, so I mean, it's her and I have a completely different Christmas, me being in Toronto. Um,
Yeah.
Right.
so
Thank
I
you for
know
the
that
pictures that you send me, Sarah.
yeah, I do. I'm like,
No.
snow. But it's even her living down there and living in that. I know she'll message me and say, "It takes place in a warm climate. That's not Christmas," you
Right?
know. Like, I guess you want to step out of your reality in a way, you know.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for those of us who grew up in the cold weather with the snow, it's just not Christmas without snow. I could never move,
Right.
never.
Yeah, that's how I feel about fall. I need a fall, and I need that crisp, the
Yeah,
change of seasons in the air. But I think like, what you were saying about, your feelings about Christmas, to me, that I love reading Christmas romance as well.
hmm
And I think that's part of it too, is as an adult, there's a lot of pressure and stress around that season. And so you
yeah,
just open this book and it's a great way to escape and to remember all the magical things about Christmas.
Yes.
that makes it so much
Yeah.
fun. Now you're probably not writing these books anywhere near the Christmas season. So when you're writing them, do you like play Christmas music? Do you do anything to like get yourself in the mood, like to write a Christmas story?
I I do. So there are a couple of things I do. I don't listen to music when I'm writing, but I do have a couple of like favorite Christmas playlists that like I'll go for walks with my dog and I will listen to. And then I have one of those little ceramic trees, like the with the lights that are built into them that was my grandmother's. So I put that
Oh,
on my desk and I turn it on and I turn on, you know how you have candles that you have certain scents? So I'll turn on one of my Christmas candles and
Yeah.
kind of get
oh,
myself
that's
in the
awesome.
mood that way.
Those
I
little
just feel like
Christmas trees are
cinnamon
iconic.
candles,
Yes,
Yes,
cinnamon candles
yes,
and little Christmas trees.
yes.
I
Love
love
it.
it. In the middle of August.
Right.
That was me in 2020. I was like, you know what? We're just going to put all the Christmas stuff back out. And it was like July.
Right. Yeah, you sort of need it. So,
Yeah.
well,
We
and I
did.
always find like I'm finishing a Christmas book maybe in January or February when in my personal life I'm done with Christmas until I get,
Mhm.
so yes, so sometimes we just leave the Christmas stuff out for a while. So,
And that's perfectly acceptable.
Now, when you do a Christmas romance, is that you like your choice as the author, or is that the editor like, hey, maybe this next book should be set during the
Hmm.
holidays? Like, how does that work?
It's a little bit of both. Part of it is the publishing schedule, but I will tell you, I love writing Christmas books. So I, I a lot of times push for that like October pub date so that I can make it into something holiday-ish.
Love it. Um, we see on your Instagram that you have fostered cats. Are you still doing that? And how difficult is it to send them away to their forever home? I could do it.
We do. My family, we do still foster kittens for a local shelter here in Colorado. And in fact, I have three with me right now who are waiting. One of
Oh
them
wow.
was kind of small, so she can't have
Mm.
her surgery yet. And the other one needed a little eye surgery. So they're with us for a
Mhm.
little bit longer. Um, it is hard to let them go, I will say, and but we have 3 cats, and my boy
Aw.
cat loves the kittens, my 2 girl cats want nothing to do with them, uh,
Yeah.
but so I cry every time, but I also feel
Aw.
like you know, I wanna be able to keep fostering the kittens, and I think if I started keeping them, my husband would maybe pull the plug on that, so
Yeah. We're done with this,
yes,
babe.
Yeah.
we've got enough now, so, but we love having the babies here,
Aw.
and I feel like because I put them on Instagram and Facebook, I have I've had author friends, I've had readers who I've gotten
Mhm.
to know who have adopted my kittens, so then I get to kinda stick around as, like, the kitten godparent and watch them grow
Yeah.
up and see pictures, and I love that.
Yeah.
Aw. Yeah, I'm a cat mom. I
So
have 2, and my mom has 1. So we have them here, and I've always said there's no way I could give them up. I would just be overrun with cats. And I have
so
2 cranky old men.
I
when you when you decided like I want to go west and
Yeah.
you took that journey, has it been everything that you hoped it would be?
Yeah, I think it has. I mean,
Mhm.
I don't know, when you're 20 if you can exactly know like you think you know what you want your life to be, but I'm not sure I did. But I met my husband out here on a blind date and he's from Cincinnati as well. We're from the same hometown. So
Oh,
And
wow.
you met out
and we met
west.
in Colorado and he was kind
That's
of the same
amazing.
way where he had decided he wanted to live out here. So I think that was really special to have somebody who was, determined to create a life as well. And
Mhm.
then my sister moved out. And so I always joke with my family, I moved 5 states away from you guys for a reason and you all followed me. So, but I
Nice.
do think it's I mean, it's everything I thought it would be and more. And I think a big part of that was, discovering romance and being able to create a career out of that because
Mhm.
I realize how lucky I am to do this job that I would choose to do even if I wasn't getting paid for it. And the readers I've met and the people in the romance community like you guys, I mean, I can't imagine anything better. People say, gosh, if you were doing your dream job, what would it be? And I feel like I'm one of the few people who gets to say, I'm doing my
Yeah,
dream job.
I'm
This is
doing
it.
it.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. Oh.
Have you all explored any of the other western states? Like, is there anything in Colorado if someone's never been, you would say go see this?
I would say, I mean, I think there's a reason that national parks are designated as national parks. So we went up to Rocky Mountain National Park last summer, and my kids, who are teenagers, had never been there. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot how beautiful this is. So, yes, I would
Yeah.
say go to a national park. My son is going to college and he wanted to stay out west. So we did a lot of touring this past summer, which was a little strange because of the pandemic. So we were like social
Mhm.
distance college touring. But my favorite thing to do in any town I go in is I always find a local bookstore and a local coffee shop, because I think you just get
Yes.
such a great sense of the community from those places. So and we found some really, really cool ones like in Idaho and Montana. So yeah, I have
Mhm.
places now I want to go back and visit again out west.
I love that. It's like
Yeah.
a true, I mean, you're an author, but you're a reader at heart too.
Right?
And that just has reader all over
Yeah.
it.
I know,
Where's
I
the
know.
bookshop and the coffee
Well,
shop?
and
And if they're
Yeah.
together,
as
that's even
a
better.
romance reader, though, I often go into local bookstores and say, "Where's your romance section? That's what I'm looking for." 'Cause you have to be an advocate